As I mentioned in the introduction, the boxes are called boxes partly because we can add notes to them. We can put notes into the boxes and thereby create new scales and colors. And one of the most common add-ons to the pentatonic scale is the so-called Bluenote. And in this section we're going to focus on that one, both technically and improvisationally. So the interval name of a Bluenote is a diminished fifth. And from the trigger time training exercise we did in previous section, we know that the fifth is the note E. You don't necessarily have to know the name of it, but you know that in fingering 1 it's there, and you got it there as well. So that's a fifth. And when you diminish something, you lower it in pitch by a half step on 1 fret on the guitar. So if this is the fifth, then the diminished fifth will be this note. So, and in this scale, we don't replace the perfect fifth. We're going to add the diminished fifth to the scale. So we're going to play like that. So you're still going to have the fifth the ordinary fifth, or the perfect fifth as it's called. So what we get here in fingering 1, we were going to get it here. Then we have a fifth here. So the diminished fifth here will be either there or it will be there, and we're going to choose that one because we are doing this one. We don't need to move our wrist. So that is box 1. I'm going to play through it here. 3, 4. Like that. And you're going to notice that there are several places in the box system that with the Bluenote you will get this situation. You get 2 frets successively, like that. It's called chromatically in the musical language. Make sure at all those points that you use separate fingers and don't do that thing. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to go through the 5 boxes quickly, and then you can start with the backing track. You're going to see them all 5, and start by just playing through it and getting a feeling where the note is, and then go to improvisation. I don't think you need to do a sort of just playing the scale up and down. We are going to do a trigger time training exercise that will give you that dimension of it. So, but I think first it's a good thing to just sit down and try to play through it, and then try to manipulate it a little bit. So anyhow, fingering 2, it comes here. So, and if you investigate a little bit, you will see that from fingering 2, you also are pretty close to a Bluenote that is there, and a Bluenote that is there. But this will lead us to corrupting the muscle memory of the box. All of a sudden it's a completely different motion. And at this point we don't want to do that, because we want to start building a muscle memory that can, as solid muscle memory of the boxes in the hand. So there, because of this, I only add the Bluenotes that are available without corrupting the box, the muscle memory of the box, without moving the wrist, that is. So we're not going to do it like that. And we are going to cover all the Bluenotes, because that one is available in fingering 1, that one will be available in fingering 3. So you are going to get the complete picture. So fingering 2. Like that. Fingering 3 starts out, we might remember that the fifth in fingering 3 is there, so we're going to get the Bluenote there. So, and then as you might or might not know, these two notes have the same name. They are E and E. And a consequence of that is that whatever happens on this string also happens on this string. So the blue note here was there, so we are also going to get it here. So entire box 3 sounds like this. 3, 4. So box 4 here. Box 5. Sorry. There. So I think you can sort of just get the backing track going, and if you need it, you just play the scale up and down. But as soon as you get some kind of flow in that, I think you should start just improvising. In addition, we are going to do trigger time training based on the Bluenote, and this will serve as your technical workout here. So the principles are the same. You ascend from the green note and you descend from the red note. However, you will see that there are only two fingerings that actually have two blue notes. So for example, in the fingering 2, you only have one there. And so in the workout, you are going to first ascend from it, you get a green note, and then you get the same note in red color. So you descend. And you will notice here that, for example, when you get to for example, here in fingering 5, box 5. Sorry. When you are going to, you have only one note. When you're going to ascend, you're going to reach the top of the scale. So you will have to then go back downwards. This might present be a little unusual for you technically. So, but you just turn and go back the same way you can. The same goes if you reach the bottom of the fingering on the. If you reach the bottom of the finger before the riff kicks in. So here you get the entire exercise system. So here you go.